I'm Andy Berke. I'm the mayor of Chattanooga. Before this, I was a state senator for a couple of terms as well as a private lawyer. I grew up in Chattanooga, spent most of my life here, my family's here. But when I graduated from high school, Chattanooga was a place and a city that was on the decline, and I went to college and thought, I'm never coming back. And because of the work that so many people did to make this a great city, I now believe I live in the greatest mid-sized city in America. Well, I've always been interested in government, and over the course of my career, I've gotten to work for government a couple of times. First, I worked right out of college for a congressman named Bart Gordon, who was out of Murfreesboro. I worked for him on the Hill in Washington. And then after I graduated from college, I worked for a federal judge who was on the Tenth Circuit in Denver, Colorado. Her office was in Lawrence, Kansas. So I've always been interested in government, and when I came back to Chattanooga, I got involved in the community, working with nonprofits, trying to figure out how I could make the city better, and I also got involved in elections. And over the course of watching elections, I started to think, well, maybe that's something that I can do as well. Nothing like watching somebody to do something up close that makes you think, hey, wait, that's not impossible. I can do that too. And so over the course of time, it just became clear that I wasn't going to change the world from my law office, and I needed to get involved, and that's why I ended up running for the state senate. When I came into office, I was determined to really transform what city government was and the way it operated every day in people's lives. So in week one, we totally reorganized government, eliminated 4 departments and started 3 new ones, taking the core functions that I believed were important to make the city run and putting them all in one place so that they made more sense. For example, we had a Department of Human Services and Parks and Recreation and so on. I took all the education components and put them into one Department of Youth and Family Development so that there could be a more coordinated chain that led people to be, have prosperity in our community. Also pulled out a Department of Transportation out of Public Works and made a new Department of Transportation so that, because I don't think transportation is a subset of anything. Transportation connects businesses to markets, neighborhoods to other neighborhoods, and people to their loved ones, friends, family, and opportunity. We wanted to take that and make it a core part of how we built a better city. So saying that this was a priority for us mattered. Started a new Department of Economic and Community Development because there was no one at the city who was thinking every day about how do we bring jobs. That wasn't their title. Of course, the mayors always think about that, but wanted someone to be accountable to me on that issue. So started a new Department of Economic and Community Development, and also link the economics of job creation with the building of neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. So we did all those things. All this was towards a central goal of empowering people. City government should knock down the barriers that prevent people from living the life that they're choosing. And we looked for all the different ways we could do that, starting with government reorganization, putting the right people into place, and then finding the right initiatives that helped empower people to live better lives.
Okay.
So Chattanooga was a city that was founded on innovation. Much of our wealth comes from the fact that we were the place where people learned how to take carbonated drinks and put them into a bottle. We're the home of the first Coca-Cola bottling plant. This is where bottling was invented for soda, and that provides lots of generational wealth that we see in our community. But somewhere along the way, we lost some of that in our city, and we became a city that was populated by smokestacks, a valley that was surrounded by mountains where all the smoke that billowed out of the factories stayed and was trapped by the mountains that surrounded us. And so Chattanooga was called the dirtiest city in America in 1969 by Walter Cronkite. Our river was polluted, our air was awful, and in the 70s and 80s we were a city in decline. And one way to think about that is we were a city that held on to its past for too long. We thought we would live in the age of boundaries forever, and the world passed us by. Those jobs got outsourced overseas, and we were left with the infrastructure, the aged infrastructure that they had, and not the economic development that we needed. So if you think about innovation has always been a critical part of our economy here in Chattanooga and across the world. And we have a chance to capitalize on it and to rebuild our status as a premier place for innovation, starting with the world's fastest, cheapest, most pervasive internet in the Western Hemisphere. So we have 600 square miles of fiber optic cable that runs through every home and business in our entire city. And that is really important. Not certain neighborhoods, not certain places. Every home and business in our entire city has access to the fastest internet that you're going to find. And we have to use that to build innovation and to say that Chattanooga is a place that we can build innovative businesses, because that's what drives economic development and prosperity in our country. There are far too many people who think that Silicon Valley, Boston, and New York are the only places where innovation occurs. There are a lot more places that look like Chattanooga than look like Palo Alto and Boston. And we've got to have a country where innovation flourishes in mid-sized cities everywhere, in the South, in mid-sized cities, and throughout our country for us to be successful. I think Chattanooga is the perfect place where we're making it happen. Well, there's several ways we're trying to make sure that Chattanooga is a place for innovation. Let's start with the Innovation District. We have to build a place that innovators want to be. That means creatives who are looking at the next technology. How do we make sure that we have a place that is attractive to them? And that means places they can walk, coffee shops where they can drink coffee and interact, housing stock where they want to live in. All those quality of place things that mayors and city and county officials think about all the time, they're really important to have the kind of innovation that you want. For us, the Innovation District, which we started, is about bringing all of our innovation assets as close as possible so that we can get the next companies starting and growing here in Chattanooga. Why does density matter? New ideas happen when people interact. When I'm an entrepreneur and I start a new company, I need real-time market feedback so I can know whether my product works. If I'm interacting with another business, that business may say, hey, listen, I would never buy your product, which is important for an entrepreneur to hear, actually. Yeah. Or, I would buy your product if you made these 3 changes to it. Mm-hmm. Or, I have this thing that I'm working on, which if we combine that together with your product, we might make something that's brand new and even better. All that real-time feedback that people get is critical for driving innovation. So you want to build places where entrepreneurs and researchers and students and creatives and existing businesses, don't ever count them out. All those different constituency groups can interact and spur the new ideas that will drive our economy. And so that's what we're doing here in Chattanooga. And again, that means public spaces and housing and quality entertainment and restaurants. It also means having different activities that people can do, which we're doing through the Enterprise Center. So that's part of it. Number two is we have to have the talent that we need. So through Tech Hire, which is all about getting more people of color, women and veterans into the IT sector, through Tech Goes Home, which is an introductory opportunity for people to interact with technology, to Treehouse, which is basic coding that we have through the city library. All these different initiatives we're working on they're all designed to get more people involved because again, the most important thing that technology companies need is talent. And we have it in Chattanooga just like people have it in other cities, but you got to utilize it. You got to make sure people have the opportunity to get involved. And then the final thing I'll just say is that if you're going to be a mayor or a local official talking about innovation, you better be innovative yourself, because entrepreneurs aren't going to respect you and creatives aren't going to listen to you if you're not trying to do anything entrepreneurial or creative yourself. So we're one of the first cities to be a Bloomberg What Works city because of our commitment to things like open data and transparency. We've changed our structure to have performance management, to have all our metrics on the web, to make sure that we're working on new ideas and again showing ourselves. Government's never going to be the most innovative place in the world, partly because we can't take the same amount of risk that entrepreneurs can. But that doesn't mean that we can't utilize a lot of the same concepts that they do as we try to build a government that's more nimble, more agile, and more responsive to constituent needs, from Chattanooga to our performance management, to startup CHA. Again, we're constantly trying to figure out how we also are innovative and make that part of our everyday life. Well, let's start with Baby University. About a year or two ago, I did a roundtable with expectant mothers. And one of the mothers there, she was probably 8 months pregnant and she already had a 4-year-old. And she said to me, my 4-year-old acts up a lot and I have trouble maintaining discipline with him. And here I am about to have this other child and I don't really know what to do, especially because my father abused me and I don't want to do that with my son, so I don't know where the line is and how to get control of his behavior, and I'm worried it's going to get worse when the new child is born. And I thought to myself, listen, I got 2 kids myself. I have enough trouble understanding how to discipline my own kids without telling her what to do. But we have lots of people in our community who need help, who don't have great role models, who don't have access to information, and are often single parents working multiple jobs and trying to do the best thing they can for their kids. And the city can help supply them with the experts who can give them better information about how to be a child's first teacher. What do I do if my child has asthma? Why is it that I read to my kid at night? How can I discipline my child responsibly? So Baby U is providing assets to 100 families a year in Chattanooga to answer these questions and get a child off to a better start. We know that there are about 4,000 kids who enter kindergarten every year in our community. About 1,000 of them aren't ready to learn. So 1 out of every 4 kids is not ready to learn when they go to school. That's pretty typical for mid-sized cities in America. And if we can take 100 and again start building capacity in our city, that's better off for everybody, because if they don't, if they start day one behind everybody else, it's really hard to catch up. So Baby U is about building out that, as well as we expanded Head Start, added another 150 slots, working on the quality. All those things are about making sure a child starts kindergarten ready to learn. On homeless veterans, this is something that I feel passionately about. If you fought for our country, you shouldn't have to fight to have a roof over your head. I remember I spoke to a veteran who served our country and was sleeping in a garage, and told me that he didn't see how people were out there trying to get jobs when you'd slept on the concrete at night. And oftentimes we think homelessness is just something we can't do anything about. It's too big of a problem. But then when you say, hey, listen, we have 80 homeless veterans in our community, then you define the problem in a way that everybody feels, okay, we can actually house 80 veterans. So we've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that we get our homeless community aligned, focused in on the issue, and just since the beginning of the year, we've housed somewhere around 70 veterans. We had 4 Marines and 1 sailor who were killed in our community as a result of senseless violence by one attacker. One of them happened, there were 2 attacks. One wounded someone out in one part of town, and then the attacker drove to the Navy Operational Reserve Center, which is actually about a quarter of a mile from our police service center, and attacked people there. Thanks to the incredible work of Chattanooga Police Department officers, it was not nearly as bad as it could have been. They ran toward danger and did so according to their training, which was really important in concluding the matter as quickly as possible. And I think, after the incident had occurred, we were focused on what was important. And that is, as much as everybody in our community was heartbroken and grieving, it wasn't about us. It was about the Marines and the sailors and their families. And we had to figure out how we could support them and help them through the tremendous loss that they had suffered. We also knew that there were Marines and sailors who were going to continue to be in our community, and we wanted them to feel safe. And General Mills, who's one of the top people in the Marine Corps, described to me walking into a restaurant a couple nights after the incident, and being with the widow of one of the deceased Marines. And he said that nobody would have known that. But when he walked into the restaurant, he was in his uniform, everybody stood up and clapped. And that was the way the community responded, with love, with spirit, with unity, and with understanding. We got gifts and donations, raised 7 figures for the families of the people injured. So our fallen heroes. So I believe that crisis reveals character. We had a lot of opportunities to show our worst side in the days following July 16th, and instead we showed our best side. And there's never been a time where I'm more proud to say I was born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee. the innovation district in downtown development is going to transform our city. We have somewhere around $500 million of development either underway or in pre-construction as we sit here right now. That is unprecedented in our city, and it's going to bring thousands of more residents into our core. That's going to transform the city in ways that we don't understand, with more retail and restaurants and entertainment, and really going to add vibrancy and life to the community. I'm incredibly excited about what things like Baby U are going to do for families in our city, because as much as we like to talk about, development and jobs, when you get one family who comes up here and says, this is how this impacted my life and the way I can operate better, it makes everything seem worthwhile. We have an initiative, for example, called Chattanooga Ambassadors Program, which is all about building character for teenagers who are on the wrong track. It's very small, so we 25 young men, 25 young women, and listening to one teenager say that he learned so much from the mentoring and the coaching and the job placement that he got, you feel like, okay, we understand why we're here. So I think that that as we see our economy growing, development happening, people getting more opportunity, trying to build paths to prosperity, I'm excited to see what our city looks like in 36 months. Number one is that I do think it's really important to define problems in ways that allow us to act. So what I mean by that, again, if you look at a problem and it's so big you feel like it's not something we can address. We can set as our goal to end poverty, which all of us want to do. But it's hard to know what concrete steps that allow us to take. But when we start to look at the problem in smaller chunks, then towards that larger goal, then that allows us to act and to figure out strategies and tactics that will move us forward. Just saying, we have a problem with education in our community, it makes you feel like it's too big to tackle. But saying we have 1,000 kids who are not ready for kindergarten, we're going to do 150 extra Head Start slots. We're going to do 100 kids at Baby University. Again, those numbers start to feel like you could feel like I'm starting to contribute to the overall well-being. Plus things like, as I said earlier, homeless veterans, saying it's not just about homelessness generally, it's about getting 80 people housed. So that's part one. Part two is there is enormous power in being able to push the conversation and convene people. One of the great things about being mayor is that I can call somebody and they'll usually pick up the phone and talk to me, and there's power in that, because I can ask for their help and they'll usually give it. I can ask for their advice and they'll always give it, and I can tell them what I expect that would help the city, and oftentimes they'll try to do it. And so that's an incredible power that you have, that people actually want you to use. They want to know what their mayor and what their city expects from them, because it helps build that out. And so, that'd be the last thing that I'll say, is that your vision is critical. The city wants it, the city needs it, and that doesn't mean your vision is not inclusive of other people's thoughts and ideas, because I mean, there are most everything that we try to do is something that others have, have been talking to us about. So it's not about owning the idea. It's about bringing together and coalescing the thoughts of many people into one vision with the ability then to act. Because we had to have the vision, but then far too many times there's just talk and not enough action. And so being able to turn that into concrete steps is critical, and that's what gives people the confidence in your vision to go along with it and say, when he or she said something, it's going to happen, so I need to participate. And I need to have my voice heard and be part of the process, because things are actually going to change if I do. No, I love, I love to spend time with my family. Particularly, I have two daughters, and because they're teenagers, they don't want to spend as much time with me, but that's okay. But I love entertainment. I love music and movies, and one place where I love to go when I have a chance is a dark movie theater with a big bowl of popcorn. The lights go off, and all that's there is you and the movie, and you can just let your mind go and just pay attention to what's on the screen. Good movie, bad movie, give me a bowl of popcorn and a dark movie theater, and I'm there.